The Chinese Coast Guard is getting aggro in the South China Sea. Well, even more aggro. Why Goldman Sachs is now telling people not to put money in China, and your new Chinese-made smart doorbell may have you under surveillance. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell, and this episode is sponsored by Incogni. You probably know that companies are collecting your personal data, but you may not realize just how many. Dozens, maybe hundreds, most of which you've never heard of, and you have no idea what they're doing with it. Incogni helps stop them. I'll explain more at the end. Well, the CCP is getting dangerously aggressive in the South China Sea. Again, it's another escalation on the aggression scale, way past passive-aggressive and just shy of be-aggressive, B-E-aggressive. Here at the Second Thomas Shoal, the Philippines keeps a Marine outpost. And by Marine outpost, I mean this rusty old hull of a World War II ship called the Sierra Madre that was intentionally grounded there. It looks like the biggest defense this ship has is its threat of giving people who attack it tetanus. See, as the Chinese military rapidly expands its hold on the South China Sea, the Philippines government is worried that the CCP will slice off more and more of their territory. So they keep a small group of Marines at the shoal as a way to maintain the Philippines' claims to the area. It's not easy keeping China at bay. One big challenge is the Philippine Coast Guard has to constantly send out resupply boats, like this one. And the last time they tried it on March 5th, they got attacked. The Philippines released this footage of two Chinese ships spraying their Philippine Coast Guard ship with water cannons. And this footage of a Chinese ship nearly ramming another Philippine Coast Guard ship and also spraying it with water cannons. I can't tell if this looks like the best or worst wet t-shirt contest in history. Either way, definitely the dumbest. This is not the first time Chinese Coast Guard ships have acted aggressively towards the Philippines, but it is the first time the Philippines had invited Western journalists on board their resupply mission, which is why we have reports like this.
It is clearly, by swarming this ship, a show of force and a show of intimidation, and it is physically stopping vessels from another country from being able to move forward through this international waterway.
At a press conference, reporters asked a foreign ministry spokesperson about it, and here's what she said.
In this incident, who is initiating the provocation? Who violated international law and endangered peace and stability in the South China Sea? The truth is clear.
Yes, the truth is clear. Thank you for being honest for a change. Wow, watching China tell the truth is like watching a penguin fly. I never knew they were physically capable of that. Of course, when she says the truth is clear, from her perspective, she means the incident is entirely due to provocation by the Philippines, which is an outright lie, so yeah, there's that. The Chinese Coast Guard did manage to stop one of the two small resupply boats from reaching the Philippine Marine outpost because their water cannons caused too much damage and caused minor injuries to the crew. But the other boat was able to complete its mission. So, glass half empty or half full? Actually, given the amount of water they were shooting, that glass is probably overflowing. But I think the Philippines came out on top here. Yes, they were outmanned and outgunned. Yet only one resupply boat got through. But by not responding with violence and by making it easy for foreign journalists to cover what's happening, the Philippines has shown the world just how insanely aggressive the CCP is getting, which is the next notch on the aggression scale. Maybe this should be a warning to everyone. But if that's not warning enough, the Chinese Communist Party has dropped the term peaceful reunification in reference to Taiwan. So now instead, they're just calling it Taiwan and done, sucker. Or more formally, China reiterated a call for reunification with Taiwan, but added emphasis that it wants to be firm in doing so, and dropped the descriptor peaceful, which has been used in previous reports. So at least they've dropped the peaceful lie. Fly, you majestic penguin, fly. The other lie to drop is the re part of reunification, because at no time in history was Taiwan ever under the control of the People's Republic of China. So there's nothing to reunify, it's just a takeover, by any means necessary. China is also preparing for war with India. I'm not sure if that's tactically very clever or very stupid, but at any rate, here's what's happening. The Maldives has signed a defense deal with China. The Maldives is here, far from China, very close to India. A new Maldives president was elected last September after running on an anti-India platform. In January, he visited Beijing. And this month, the Maldives has signed a military assistance deal with China. I'd say find somebody who loves you as much as China loves making shady deals with foreign nations, but that would probably mean they'd pretend to love you, screw you over, and leave you in crippling debt, which sadly is how a lot of normal relationships end anyway. On top of the defense deal with China, some 89 Indian military personnel in the country will have to leave by May 10th. So the Chinese military could be right at India's doorstep. Or I should say India's doorsteps, because China also controls facilities at Gwadar Port in Pakistan, Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka, Chittagong Port in Bangladesh, and Kiakpu Port in Myanmar. So this new military deal with the Maldives is just the CCP telling India, we have you surrounded. Come up with all your hands up. At least one country is finally doing something to stand up to the CCP threat, and that country is America? USA, you finally grew a brain. Yep, the U.S. House of Representatives has introduced a bipartisan bill to stop TikTok. Or not exactly stop it, but at least to force the Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell TikTok. Which is good because TikTok has been infesting the minds of Americans for nearly 8 years. And this whole time, it's been controlled by a bunch of literal commies. The U.S. government knows TikTok is dangerous, not necessarily because it's pushing CCP propaganda or causing health insurance costs to rise because there's so many dangerous TikTok challenges, people can now make list articles about them, but because the way it tracks its users is full of security risks, which is why last year the federal government banned TikTok from all government phones. 4 years ago, the Indian government flat out banned TikTok for everyone, nationwide. This U.S. bill wouldn't go that far, probably because it's not politically viable in the U.S., considering that so many young voters, who mostly vote Democrat, are addicted to the app. It would be like prohibition all over again, only instead of mobs, we'd get flash mobs. The way this bill works is that it would force ByteDance to completely divest from TikTok and sell it to a non-Chinese company. And it's getting bipartisan support because it curtails CCP control while letting Americans keep their stupid TikTok. And after the break, why is Goldman Sachs suddenly saying don't invest in China? Welcome back. China began its Two Sessions meeting in Beijing this week. That's an annual meeting of the National People's Congress and the CPPCC, which is an advisory body. So, what do these Two Sessions meetings actually do? Besides look like the Academy Awards if instead of movies, they were for human rights abuses. Well, according to Chinese state-run media, it offers a window for the international community to understand China. What kind of window? Why, a window into China's democracy. For example, by observing the Two Sessions, the international community can deepen its understanding of China's democracy. Also, one can understand how Chinese democracy operates effectively, because it's a vivid practice of China's whole process people's democracy that solidly advances whole process people's democracy. And China's whole process people's democracy not only has a complete set of institutions and procedures, but also is full of participation and practices. Okay, so I'm getting that China is definitely a democracy. A whole process people's democracy. The kind where ahead of these meetings, their whole process locks down people who have dissenting views. Which sounds bad, but not all the dissidents were put under house arrest. Some got to go on quote-unquote vacations with police. The worst type of vacation is the kind that needs quotation marks. Also at the Two Sessions, China set its economic growth target for 2024 to around 5%. And I believe that will be what they officially report at the end of the year. Of course, you shouldn't actually trust China's growth data. How does China grow 5% despite so many headwinds from collapsing property investment to declining population? Very likely it doesn't. Even if they had a magic lamp, the genie would be like, even I can't help you there, chief. Maybe just keep wishing for more wishes. And China probably didn't grow as much as reported last year either. Lots of weird anomalies in the official data are making it more and more obvious that the CCP is fudging the numbers, which is why I've been telling you for 12 years, don't invest in China. And you know who finally agrees with me? Goldman Sachs, who's literally saying don't invest in China. Here's what their wealth management CIO told Bloomberg Television.
All our clients are asking us that question. Given how cheap China appears, people inevitably say, well, has it discounted the worst news? And our view is that one should not invest in China.
She says that's because China's main drivers of economic growth are property, infrastructure, and exports, and all of them are declining. She also thinks China's economy will continue to decline for the next decade. Yes, good points, but I don't think it means she's been watching China Uncensored, because those aren't the points I would have made first. I would have started with things like how foreign companies in China are facing growing scrutiny and political pressure, including arbitrary national security crackdowns, or how there's large-scale forced labor and human rights abuses in Xinjiang, or, China's aggressive military behavior that's on the verge of escalating into armed international conflict. Yeah, but still good enough. As long as investors listen to Goldman Sachs and don't invest in China, I don't care what reasons they give. Go ahead. Tell them there's a giant money-eating llama there. Whatever works, man. And after the break, Chinese hackers get hacked. Welcome back. For a long time, I've been recommending that you should try not to buy products made in China. And the latest made-in-China product with serious problems is doorbells. Specifically, smart doorbells, which are stupid. A Consumer Reports investigation has found that many of these video doorbells have terrible security, but Amazon is selling them anyway, because Amazon would literally sell a calendar of dogs pooping if they thought it would make them money. And I'm not being hypothetical, they literally sell that. I mean, sure, the doorbells are cheap. This one from some random brand called Fishbot is only $33.98. Surely there's no terrible hidden downside. Well, Consumer Reports bought 2 of these low-cost Chinese doorbells, including one from the brand I just showed you, and they discovered that their security vulnerabilities could allow a dangerous person to take control of the video doorbell on their target's home, watching when they and their family members come and go. For example, a stalker could just walk up to the doorbell and pair it with his own smartphone without any kind of password or authentication. Man, remember the good old days when the most dangerous thing someone could do with a doorbell was play ding-dong ditch? Some of these doorbells are illegal to sell in the United States because they don't meet FCC requirements, and yet they're sold online and delivered by Amazon, as well as Walmart, Sears, and Temu. What's worse, some of these horrible doorbells have often carried badges saying Amazon's Choice, overall pick. That label might make you think that humans working at Amazon have vetted the product. Nope. According to their FAQ, Amazon's Choice is based on an algorithm that looks at ratings, price, popularity, product availability, and fast delivery. So if you're looking for a smart device, don't be stupid. Stay away from things made in China, because this calendar is somehow far from the crappiest item sold on Amazon. Speaking of hacking, a treasure trove of leaked files have exposed the secret world of China's hackers for hire. A couple of weeks ago, an online user began anonymously posting a massive cache of documents from the Chinese cybersecurity vendor Aisun. It's called Anshun in Mandarin. Aisun had a range of software products that can target major websites in China and abroad, as well as iPhones and other personal devices. Aisun even said it had built technology that could target accounts on X, that is Twitter, and could pull email addresses, phone numbers, and other identifiable information related to user accounts, and in some cases, help hack those accounts. They made a social media site a place no one should go to over security concerns. So in other words, TikTok. It's not like this is some isolated private enterprise hacking on its own. Aisun was working for a range of Chinese government entities that sponsor hacking, including the Ministry of State Security, the People's Liberation Army, and China's National Police. And this photo from AP shows the front desk of Aisun's office in Chengdu. So if you still have any questions about its connections to the Communist Party, this little flag should answer it for you. I, of course, love the irony that a hacked company just got hacked and its data has been leaked. That's an aggressive level of irony. In fact, it's be aggressive. B-E, aggressive ironic. But there are almost certainly a lot of other Chinese state-sponsored hacking companies out there that we haven't heard of. And that's exactly why you need to take extra steps to protect your private information online. There are already tons of companies that collect your personal data, often without you knowing it. I didn't realize the extent of it until I signed up for Incogni, the sponsor of today's episode. When I signed up for Incogni 2 years ago, I discovered there were dozens of data brokers that potentially had my private information without my permission. So how do you protect yourself? get as many of these companies as possible to delete your data from their systems. That's what Incogni does for you. Incogni has already gotten my details removed from 186 of these data brokers, with a bunch more in progress. And I didn't have to do anything after signing up. Incogni just handles it. So I recommend you get Incogni for yourself and reclaim your own data. Go to incogni.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Get your personal data off the market with Incogni. And in my ongoing attempt to talk about things YouTube considers too controversial by hiding it in gaming content, check out this video about totalitarian regimes and who the real good guy and bad guy is, according to Dune, the 1992 MS-DOS game, and the movie. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.